What is going on, everybody? Welcome to GLE, another killer episode for you. I got a guy here that I've spent way too much time with over my life, and I met this individual. I was driving to Wayne State University the day I was moving in as a freshman. My parents had moved to Texas. I flew back and picked up all my stuff in an empty house we hadn't sold yet, and drove it down to good old Wayne State, the Towers Residential Suites. And I called my roommate, Mr. John Skaggs, and I didn't know him, hadn't met him, hadn't seen him, didn't know a thing about him. And I called him. He was there at the dorm, and I said, "Hey, John, Phil here. I'm your roommate." They stuck me in a room with three upperclassmen. John was one of them, and John, I was like, "Hey, man, can you come down and help me move in?" I had this little Honda full of a bunch of crap, and all of a sudden I see this big, like 6'5", 6'6", Derek Jeter looking stud walking down, and I'm just a little freshman. And I was like, oh my goodness, what did I get myself into? This is my roommate, this big stud. And I ended up living with John for 4 years at Wayne State and building a really strong friendship with him. And I'm thrilled he could be on our show today. John Skaggs, welcome to the show.
What's up, Phil? Man, great to be on. Love seeing all you're doing, man.
I appreciate it, brother. So, John, for those that don't know you, I know for any of our listeners from Wayne State, they're going to know you. Anyone from Michigan, especially in the Adrian area, you're the mayor of Adrian. They're going to know who John Skaggs is. But for those that don't know you, maybe give them a little background on how you grew up and how you got to where you are, owning Prime Time and running a business today.
Yeah, for sure. I'm from Adrian, Michigan, literally middle of nowhere, cornfields all around us. Lived there from middle and high school, and was fortunate enough to get a baseball and athletic and academic scholarship to go to Wayne State. I went up there and spent 5 years there and played baseball and changed majors a few times, and finally made my way into the education field. And realized that's what I wanted to do, is be a teacher, but I still had that love for the game of baseball. So once my baseball career ended, moved on down to Washington, D.C., and that's where I am now. I'm in Arlington, Virginia. Been here for 11 years, and I've been teaching high school history and special ed. Been doing that for 7, going on 8 years now, 9 if we count the COVID year. And I was starting to miss that baseball aspect a little bit, and started going back into baseball, and open up a baseball academy and here in the area. It's something that's blossomed and had some ups and downs, balanced in COVID and whatnot, but that's kind of what made me to get out here.
Awesome, John. Awesome. So let's walk back to your time in Adrian. And I know whenever I've gone to Adrian with, we always end up running into people. You were always that guy that, you stop in a restaurant and he knows somebody, he's going to walk over and talk to him, or they're going to stop by and talk to us. And I always thought that was cool. Like, I always liked going out with John because he was always never afraid to go talk to people, meet people, do things. How did you get that type of personality? Like, is that something you just grew up with? Did you see a mentor in your life that did those things? What was it that drove you to be so social and so outgoing with people?
Yeah, so I think it actually started before I moved to Adrian. So I moved to Adrian in 5th grade, and before that, I had lived in 7 states, and before 5th grade. So my dad had been in the automotive business and started at the bottom, and every time he got promoted, we had to move. So I was born in Seattle, Washington, and then was all over the country. So every move, I was forced to meet new friends. So I'd have friends, I'd lose them. And we didn't have Facebook and Instagram, and I didn't have a phone, so I couldn't keep in touch with these people. So I left it. We're done. And that was it. Then we had to go to a new town, and it was my sister and I, and she was 2.5 years younger, and no one wants to hang out with their younger sister at that time.
Oh, geez.
So, I just had to go meet new people all the time, and it was awkward at first. And, I had sports to help me out, and I was always the tall kid, so that helped. But, there were tough times meeting new people, especially in areas where, maybe I was super unfamiliar. So I kind of was forced to branch out and be that person to, if I want to make friends, it's going to be on me. If I want to talk to people, it's going to be on me to take that first step and to really get out of my comfort zone. And it did take a little bit, but once I got there, it's something that stuck with me for years, and I'm still that way now.
Yeah, man. That, like, I think about our relationship, right? Like, I just got stuck in a room with you, right?
Lucky.
Like, yeah. I mean, truly, I do count myself fortunate. Having living with you guys my freshman year. I mean, I can't imagine if I had been living, what my college experience would have been like, and how different it would have been if I'd have been in the freshman dorm.
Mhm.
It's a different experience. You're with upperclassmen. They have different priorities. Our one roommate ended up getting drafted, Anthony Bass, and Ryan LaPonce, total stud, just always driven, always focused. Ended up getting what do you go? It's like some chemical
Oh,
bio.
yeah, and he was big chemical engineering type thing, and he's phenomenal.
Yeah, he was in like organic chemistry and all that stuff, and like way above my head for sure. Um, but yeah, and then you and it came in handy. You were already 21 when I came in as a freshman. That was always a plus. But I loved being around you older guys, but that's accidental, right? Like, I didn't seek that out, and it's taken me a long time to be outgoing. And it's not that I was afraid to talk to people, but so many people just walk around with their head down every day, and they
Mhm.
let people and things and
Absolutely.
relationships kind of come to them instead of proactively going out and seeking them. And I relate to you being a guy that moved around a lot. What were the states you lived in? Those 7 states before you
Yeah.
were in fifth grade?
Now, so Washington, Colorado, Utah, Kentucky, Kansas, Florida, and then up to Michigan.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay.
all over the country. Literally, it
Yeah.
wasn't just like, Michigan, Ohio, Indiana. I was just going right here. I was everywhere.
Yeah. That's good, man. Like I love that different experience, that change, like
Mhm.
seeing change and seeing different communities and different ways people live, I think is really big
Yeah.
in developing. And so nowadays you're a teacher.
Mhm.
You went into teaching and history and special ed. I know you always were a history buff. What
So
what started your love of history?
so it is actually the moving. So once again, it comes back to all the moving around, because it wasn't history; it was more geography. Right. I hated math, still do. That's like batting average, payroll. That's where I'm
Oh,
at.
there
But
you
no,
go.
you know, it was geography. We're learning about all these places that I traveled through, driving to my next place to live. Oh, hey, we're gonna talk about the Grand Canyon. Boom, was there a couple of months ago. We're gonna talk about Mount Rushmore. Drove through there this summer. And all this geography. And as we're traveling places, I'm looking on a Rand McNally map, right, trying to figure things out. And that just stuck to me. And when I was deciding what I wanted to teach, I was like, well, geography is kind of not a subject that we're teaching in school anymore, but history was. And that's something that kind of interested me. And I had some good history teachers along the way in school that made me love history instead of dreading it. And
Mhm.
that's something that led me into teaching, was that idea of, don't be the boring teacher who puts a movie on and that's it, or monotones through a whole lecture. I was someone who was interactive and got the kids involved and out of their seat and very hands-on. So that was what kind of got me to wanting to be the history teacher.
Mhm. Super cool.
Yeah.
So on the other side, the special ed side, it takes a very special person to want to go into that field, and I'm just curious what drove you towards that, and I commend you for it. It's pretty amazing.
Well, thank you. And I hear that a lot with the word patience. It's funny. I have patience for different people. I can have all the patience in the world for my students, and then I'm at the bank, and I'm like, why is this taking 3 hours?
I've never seen you get impatient, John. Not with me, not with anybody. Come on.
Oh, never, never. But no, so I don't know, with the special ed, my mom had worked in she was a teacher, and she worked in a resource room when I was growing up. So when I would go eat lunch sometimes, especially at a new school, I'd go find her if she was there, and I would be immersed in students who were, who was with disabilities. And I was just kind of drawn to, like, wow, I see how my mom cares these students, and that these students are not much different than me, and I kind of was drawn to that. But when I was applying for jobs out here in Virginia, I was applying for history jobs, and it wasn't something that was opening up. And a position opened up in special ed, and someone said, "Are would you like it?" And I said, "I'm not certified." And they said, "Well, what if we hired you, but then you had to go back and get your master's?" I was like, I gotta go back to school. And then, I thought about it some more, and that was the right decision. So I went back every Wednesday for 5.5 hours for 2.5 years, and got my master's while teaching and opening my business.
Wow. Very cool. Very cool. You've always been a driven guy. You've always been doing a lot of different things. How do you manage that type of workload? Like what drives you to stay motivated and do all those different things?
Sometimes I think it's the fear of not doing what I want to do. So what I mean by that is I want to do any and everything that I can do. I don't want to be, one day not being able to do, I don't know. I just don't want to miss out on opportunities like to travel the world or to go do new experiences and stuff like that. I think the fear of not being able to do that is what drives me, because I want to experience everything I can.
You have traveled a lot and
Yeah.
experienced a lot. What is your favorite experience looking back?
Mm,
And I know you're married, so obviously your wedding day and all that
of
stuff,
course, of course.
but what's your favorite experience looking back? If you could just pick one. Do you have a favorite?
Yeah, I've got two, but I'll go with one. So obviously I've been very fortunate to tie the game of baseball into my travels. And I've been able to take teams with our business all around the world. We've gone to Japan, Spain, where else? Switzerland, Italy, and all those things were amazing. But we took a trip to Switzerland and Italy, and I actually got engaged on that trip. It was pretty cool. I got engaged on that trip while I was there, and it was a baseball family trip, and I got to see and play baseball with kids from all over the world. And I mean, I'm 34 now, but I think I was 30, 31. And we went on this trip. I brought a group of 15 players from here, and we went over there and just played baseball. Got to go through the Swiss Alps, and we're playing teams from Russia, from China, from South Africa, from Korea, and all of us meeting on the field and just talking the game of baseball. And the experience I'll never forget is I get to home plate the first game, the US team from my team, and we're playing an Italian team. And the umpires from Czech Republic, and the head coach of the Italian team is from Cuba. And all we know is play ball. That's like the only words we could all understand.
Right.
Like out, strike, and play ball. And that was it. But you know what? We were there, and it was phenomenal. We were able to do that, and just that it was great. Just the communication of the baseball terms made us play.
Yeah. So communication is a funny thing. Like when I was growing up, we were required to take a second language, right? And
Yeah.
like I took a little Spanish early on. I took a little bit of French, a little bit of Latin,
Mhm.
back in my classical school days, learning the Latin dead language.
Yeah.
But it was good, right? That's all good. And then when I got to high school, my parents wanted me in music, and so they let me kind of skip out on taking a second language. And then I married a Spanish speaker from a Spanish speaking family, or a Spanish speaking family, a Mexican family, and you get around people and you can't communicate, and it's really really tough.
Yeah.
And something like baseball, I was just watching, have you seen Kobe's little documentary Rise, or Muse, I think it's called?
Mute. Yep.
Yeah, but he talks about that when he was traveling as a kid, and like he found comfort because he always had his ball and he could always go play ball, and that was a way he could always get along no matter where he moved, was he could play basketball, and that was kind of their language. And when what you just described, it just kind of brought that back to me, like that it's almost like its own language. You can't even communicate any other way, but when you're on the field,
It just happens.
yeah, like you just, if you know the game, you play and
Mhm.
can communicate that way and connect with people. It's really cool.
No, it is. And I mean, to me, communication it's a word that is, I don't think it's stressed enough with work, with family, with relationships. I teach communication daily in our baseball practices. And then I go to school and I'm talking to my students. I'm like, hey, you need to communicate, you need to advocate, tell me what you need, because I can't read what's going on in your head. You have to tell me, that type of thing. But then the big communication I do is, just because I'm telling you something doesn't mean you're comprehending what I'm actually saying. And that's what makes communication work. And I think a lot of people think just because I'm telling you something, that's communicating, but it's not. If my audience doesn't understand it, then I've failed at communicating. And
yeah. And, you're talking about patience. So many people are quick to get frustrated at other people who don't understand them,
right.
when instead of like what you just described, taking the ownership and realizing that, hey, it's not their fault that they don't understand me necessarily. Maybe I need to tell it a different way. Maybe I need to figure out a better way to communicate it where they can understand it. Maybe they're not speaking my language. So what, how can I put it in a language they're going to understand? And I love that, man. I love that attitude. I think like when we talk about being coachable, I'm really passionate about this because I think I failed as an athlete for a long time because I thought being coachable was just do what your coach tells you to do.
Correct.
Right.
I would agree. Same.
Yeah, like that is, so what's being coachable to you? Because I have a different opinion on it now, but I'm curious, what do you think being coachable is?
So, when we were at Wayne State, we had awesome coaches. I mean, all our coaches all the way through. But just like how teams are now, different coaches had different philosophies. And when I was at Wayne State, a coach said, "Do this," and I either had the mentality of, "I already know what I'm doing. I'm a college athlete. I got this,"
Right.
or I went with the attitude of, whatever you tell me, I'm just going to do it to make you happy because I want to play.
Right.
Those are the two mentalities I went to. But to kind of reverse to that, to me, what coachable should have been in that sense would have been, listen to what people are saying, try things out, and then kind of see what works for you. And, being open to a change.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's for me what coachability is. If you're coachable, is you're open to change, not saying that you have to, but you're open to the possibility of it instead of being closed-minded.
Yeah, I love that. You got to be open. And you were talking about communication. I think there's another area I failed in the past. When someone tells you to do something that doesn't make sense to you, it's your obligation, if you're a coachable person, to communicate to your coach, what you're thinking, and in a respectful way. Like, I don't understand why I'm doing this way. This doesn't feel right. Like you gotta be able to, because they don't know if you don't get it unless you tell them, right? So if you're just like blindly doing what they say and they think you got it, then it's not gonna work, right?
No, I've seen a lot of my players when I'm coaching, I'll explain a drill. And when I first started coaching, I would explain a drill and I would assume everybody got it because I see heads nodding. I'm like, all right. And then we do the drill and 10 seconds into it, it's completely wrong from what I was expecting.
Yeah.
They probably thought it was right.
Sure.
So now I've learned, when I explain a drill, I'll say, does anyone have any questions? Does this make sense? And then I'll actually pick somebody who I believe knows what's going on and have them relay it back. And then I see the big head nods like, got it. Now I know what's going on. And then I'm like, all right, we just achieved something. Now let's go do the drill.
All right, I'm bringing up a touchy topic.
Uh-oh.
And I'm not trying to pull the string, but I think it's fun because you're a coach, right? So, least favorite baseball coaching cliches. Like, are there things that you'll hear a coach say, like classic baseball things that would just like make you cringe as a coach? Like, like I hate that.
Oh man, goodness. Well, some of them I use that I thought were terrible.
Well, it's like you got to communicate it in a way people understand. And so, some people I talk about getting the feeling. I don't know if you've ever heard me talk about this or if I've had this conversation with you, but like there's a feeling of success, right? Everybody's hit a ball, like anybody who's played baseball, right? You know what it feels like to hit a ball perfect and see that ball just go flying. Yeah. Like, it's almost like you didn't even try to hit it, but like it went farther than any ball you've ever hit. And it's like, what did I just do? Like, I just did something there that was very right. Like, how do I repeat whatever the heck I just did? Because it felt right? You got the feeling. So it's like, okay, how can I just repeat that feeling over and over, that feeling of success? And when you tell people certain things, like, telling them one thing might get them to feel it, right? Even though it's not necessarily right. You know what I mean? So that's kind of, there's some funny ones, but what, like, do any come to mind or things like cliche phrases that I know we joke about the toe tap a lot, John?
All the time, the toe tap. it's funny because my toe tap is not something I would ever teach someone how to hit the way I hit. But for me, it was a timing thing, and
Yeah.
definitely a shout out, Paul Lamantia loves my toe tap.
Oh, yeah.
About it. But for me, I always think the one is see the ball, hit the ball, right? So when I hear that, it's so simple, right? Oh, hey, there's the ball. I'm just going to hit it. But then when, guy in the bumps pumping 92, I kind of saw it, but I'm not hitting that ball. Like, that to me was one I do. And then I'll tell the kids, guys, it's simple. Let's just see the ball, hit the ball. And I'm like, oh, did I just say that? Yeah.
It's funny though. It's one of those things that's like you get up there in the heat of the moment,
Mhm.
and something as simple as, okay, I need to pick up that ball as early as possible right out of his hand and which way it's spinning. And, you can you just lose it, right? You can lose focus very easily with everything going on.
Oh yeah.
I know you're a morning workout guy,
Oh,
and, anybody who's ever heard the, Eric Prids, how do you say his name?
Eric Prides.
Brides. Yeah. So, John's a tradition guy. He's a habit and tradition guy. He's anybody who hears Call on Me, who knows John Skaggs, instantly thinks of John Skaggs when they hear the song Call on Me. So, what do habits mean to you? What are your habits that have helped shape who you are today?
I think that's why one of the things I fell in love with baseball about was the superstitions, the habits, the day in, the day out, the exact same thing. You get up, you get your lift in, you go to class, you go to practice. That routine that kept me on pace, and that's something I do now. And it's literally, I think, especially during COVID, it's something that saved me from kind of losing my mind at times when we were, especially at the very beginning when you're in quarantine and stuff. That routine is what saved me. I have a routine now, that I go into a school back in, and it's something like tonight I'll start to prep for this week, and that's part of my routine. So even my prep is part of my routine. But what I found is, what's the saying? I'm definitely gonna say it wrong, but I think all the time it's like, prepare. If you don't prepare, like, you're preparing to fail.
Mhm.
Like if I'm not preparing for what I'm going to have, then I'm not going to be able to be successful for what I want to do during the week. So if I don't make my meals tonight, I'm not going to have to go out to go like Taco Bell. Love me some Taco Bell, but if I'm trying to maintain my, eating healthy and on this thing I'm doing, I'm
Mhm.
not going to be able to do that. And I just took a step back
Right.
because I didn't prepare. So
Yeah.
I'm a big routine guy, and it's helped me, in baseball, in the business world, in my teaching, and trying to show kids how to do that too.
Yeah. Failing to prepare is preparing to fail.
There it is.
And I like that one. That's a really good one. I think people see successful people, and like, I know I've done this in the past where I'll see like an executive or, some public speaker or something, and I'll look at them and just be like, man, they're just so good at that. Like that just must come so naturally to them. Right. But what you don't see is the fact that, like, they have speech coaches and they've practiced and they've written these things down and rehearsed and failed a bunch of times. Right. Like, I think baseball players are pretty good and well suited to be business owners,
Oh, yeah.
because there's so much failure that goes along with owning a business. And as a baseball player, you're pretty much trained to
Fail regularly.
learn how to deal with failure because you're failing so often, right? And you're a business owner now, and I think that's like, I'm always impressed, and I didn't have this perspective before, but I think it's like super super cool whenever I meet somebody that's brave enough to step out on their own and start a business. So, like, it's super impressive, John, and I commend you for it. But I'm curious, like, what did you go through mentally as you started Primetime? And just kind of give us the history of Primetime and what you're doing with it today.
Fear. My gosh, there were so many. It was scary. So I was a full-time teacher, and wanted to get that baseball going. I was doing lessons at an academy just on the side. And one of my best friends down here, Chris, he was a professional baseball player with the Reds, and he was home in the off season, and him and I just kind of hit it off and started doing a bunch of lessons. And we said, let's make our own place. And I was like, all right, let's do it. So we're sitting down at a restaurant called Primetime, and we were like, what's a good name? And we literally looked at the sign and said, right there. It wasn't copyrighted, but yeah, so, we made this decision that we wanted to do it. And me, I have an education background. He has a psychology background. So zero business at all. And we just start getting to work, figure out what we need to do. We ask people, we call up people that we know, done it, just do a bunch of research and, make that jump. And we did it ourselves. We didn't want family involved. We didn't want anybody. We said, if this is something we're going to do, we're going to do it with him and Chris and I doing it, or it's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And we made that jump. And it was 2014. In the summer of 2014, we started it up, and took a little loan out from the bank and got rolling. And here we are 7 years later in our second place. But there were a lot of times that I was ready to quit, and I'm not a quitter, but I was done. So Chris went out to spring training and he was playing, and I was teaching getting my master's. I'm a varsity head baseball coach, and it's all happening at the same time as I'm trying to open this business. And I remember one time we were supposed to get this turf in, and it came in 8,000-pound rolls. And that's me staring at 3 rolls of 8,000-pound. And I literally,
it was like a torture workout from back in the day with our coaches.
Like Paul Harker would have just lifted it himself, but
right.
But I had to figure it out. So I actually went to Home Depot and I called Chris. And I said, Chris, I don't know how we're going to do this, man. I'm just going to buy this fake grass that you would see outside like a trailer, and I'm just going to put this in the facility because I can't do this. And he's like, dude, if anyone can do this, you can do this. I know we can find a way. And he that confidence that he had in me, just kind of, I'm like, you know what, let's do it. And I found a way, and we got it done. And I said 7 years later, we've got 15 travel baseball teams. We're in a 8,000 square foot indoor space.
Yeah.
A full weight room. We're definitely growing, and it's something that I don't think of enough, how proud I am of what Chris and I have done. Moments when kids sign a college scholarship who play with us, I'm like, that's why we did it. But then you get an email like, oh, someone's mad, you got to go do work, and it quickly goes out.
Right. That's awesome, man. I love how you mentioned that he had confidence in you. Mm-hmm. I've got a mentor in my life now, but he talks about how, you might quit on yourself, but he'll never quit on you. He'll never quit believing in you. And I think that's super important to have that in your life, that like mentorship of somebody who, when you're looking down those, I don't know, those huge roles, and you're like, how am I going to do this? And you're doubting yourself, just to have somebody that believes in you. That's like, hey man, look, like you can do this. Mm-hmm. I believe, whether you believe in it or not, I believe in you. I think that's a super cool thing to have. And it sounds like you have an awesome partner, who's also, somebody like that in your life, which is really cool.
Well, one of the things I made a big change in myself was about 1.5 years ago. I changed who I associate with. And what I mean by that is on social media, even just that, right? For our baseball world, social media is everything. What we're posting, getting kids recruited, new drills, everything is driven up by the social media. And so I'm finding myself on the phone all the time, but what I'm seeing isn't always what's best for me. I'll see stuff that maybe brings me down, and and it puts more negative thoughts in my head. So I just started unfollowing, and I have revamped my social media network so where the people I follow, the things and topics I follow are stuff that's going to make me better. So, I have motivational stuff, or people who I look up to in the business world or athletic world, stuff like that. And that, so, when I get up in the morning, if I get on my phone, I don't see something that, man, kind of depletes me. I see something that's, all right, where are we going today? And that's a big change. That's changed, just kind of an outlook that I've had, just as simple as Instagram or Facebook.
I love that, man. Purposeful association. And that, again, that's just something I started to do like in the past year, really, was say, hey, look, I want to learn about business. I need to surround myself with people who know business. And I wasn't on social media, right? I got off social media. I might have to reactivate my old Facebook though, to get our picture for this podcast art. Is that what you wanted that picture for? The podcast art?
I just wanted it for the podcast. After that,
I'm going to have to go reactivate and see if I can find it. But, Yeah, man. Like purposeful association, you are, and I tell this story all the time because it's just like ironically almost comedic in a way, but like, I love my family. I love, my career has been great. But my dad was an engineer who worked in energy. I had an older brother who's an engineer who worked in energy. And there's a video of me at Wayne State when I had my senior spotlight. You can find it on YouTube. What did I say? Oh, I just want to be an engineer that works in energy. Like like that's what I knew. That's who I was around, and that's what I wanted. And you're really going to become an average of the five people you're closest with, and that's not a bad thing. I don't mean this bad at all, and I don't mean it negatively in any way. But if you do want more, you need to find people that are doing what you want to be doing. You need to surround your people, and being purposeful with your social media is a great way to surround yourself with people. They're not your direct mentors necessarily, but when you got successful people that you aspire to be like, that are constantly pouring mindset into you every day through their social media accounts, right? Like that's free mentorship, man. It's awesome.
No, and that's like I said, that just a simple change of unfriend or delete, and that right there, it's a huge difference, because you wake up each day, and when you start your day, anything can happen. You can go whatever route you want. There's some days where I'm tired, and like I said, I'm getting dressed, and I open up and I see this, and I'm like, man, I'm ready to roll. And it's just something like that may trigger a slow start to a day. It's pouring rain out here in Virginia today. Miserable. You look outside, it's cold, it's rainy, but you see what can I do? What can I get after and accomplish to complete this day, make it better?
That's awesome, John. We were out in the Bahamas not too long ago for your wedding.
Yeah.
Congratulations again, by the way. How long have you been married now?
They did well, we survived, what is it, a year and a half, or no, year and 2 months. Year and 2 months. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I remember it vividly because after that trip, I ended up having a baby 9 months later that showed up. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the conch, but there's these little sea creatures out there that supposedly are an aphrodisiac or something, and apparently they work. But how's marriage been? I know for me, when you're alone and it's just you,
Mm.
You're very, I wouldn't say selfish, but it's easy for one to be very, internally focused on what's going on with them. And then, I like the progression of, okay, now I'm married and now I got this other person that I'm sharing my life with that I need to think about, and like pretty much everything I'm doing. And now I'm a new dad. So it's like another stage of that progression. I'm just curious if you're seeing that as a married man, and how marriage has been, and kind of, changed your mindset a little bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, Danny and I had been together for 4 years before, 4.5 years before we got married. And we had built a real solid friendship. That's obviously how we got to where we are now. But she works in the airline industry. So a lot of times when we were first together, there were times where I would see her a lot, and then I wouldn't see her a lot. And, I guess that's common in some relationships, just with work and whatnot. But I mean, she'd be, days at a time gone. But we got married in January, and I'll remember right after, maybe 5 weeks later is when COVID really started to get big, and lockdowns and stuff went in. And I had a buddy who had said to me, he said, "Man, I hope you survived your first year of marriage locked inside." And I gave the chuckle, like, yeah. And then I was like, what is he talking about? Like, I mean, this is the person that we have chosen as our life partner. And I was like, I'm excited. Not that I'm excited for COVID situations that's going on, but I'm excited that I'm going to be able to spend more time and get to know her even more. And I truly believe this past year has been the best year that we have had yet. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because we've learned so much more about each other, right? I mean, we were never together in the middle of the day, ever. Right. Yeah. I mean, I leave in the morning for work, and she's gone. And now all of a sudden it's 10 a.m. and we're both home together. Right. I'm like, so that's what you eat during the week for breakfast. But you take naps, like, stuff like that. But it's just, we got to know each other so much more than just when we got to see each other. And that was something that I felt flourished in our relationship even more. And, not just for podcast making sense, but I'm truly, truly happy with our relationship, and things have been going great. And COVID it's like a positive effect of COVID, I think, has helped that.
Yeah, it's been a blessing, man. You know, especially for us having a new baby, being able to spend some more time with our baby has been really amazing. And you know, I know being married is something you'll hear married people, like you mentioned that negative comment about, oh man, you know, I hope you survive your first year or whatever. And
Mhm.
this is another association thing. Like
Yep.
you'll hear comments like that from people, but pretty much every time you hear a comment like that from somebody, they probably had a crappy marriage,
Yep. Or
you
they've
know?
had some negative aspects in
Right.
their life that have caused that.
Or
You
their
know,
parent, yeah, or their parents had a crappy marriage
yeah.
or whatever, right? And then you get around people that actually have good marriages, like you or me or you know, some of the people that we probably know, and you're like, hey, you know, this is marriage is a good thing, right? If you marry the right person, and marriage can be and is a huge blessing, huge. And you know,
Well,
I love how I love that perspective that you shared.
you don't hear a lot of the negatives from the people who are going, things are going good, right? Like,
Right.
we're gonna be together for the next, whatever months, and that person came with a more negative. I hope you survive. Where the people who have the good marriages, they're not
Yeah.
saying anything. They're
Yeah.
like, I don't need to say anything. This
It's
guy's
like,
just,
hey, I get to spend a lot of more time with my spouse. This is great.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's like it's a good thing,
hmm
right? Yeah, it's super cool.
And we had a lot of stuff. We had our honeymoon was canceled and stuff. That
Yeah,
trip that we were going to do and stuff, and everybody did. People have a lot worse than we were fortunate to have, but
sure.
it has allowed us to do more things. We started doing puzzles. I'd never have gone about a puzzle and sit there on a Friday night doing a puzzle with her, but we did
Right.
once, and that was it. Never again. We didn't finish it, but we
Right.
had fun doing that together for the however many hours.
Right.
That was something that we would never have done. We
Mhm.
have plants in the house. I never have had plants in the house, but we got bored, found something to do, and
There you
we
go.
enjoyed doing it together. And
That's
I
awesome,
felt
man.
really helped us grow more.
That's awesome, John. Awesome. Well, buddy, it's been really fun talking to you, and I'm glad you got to share this. Before we close, I got to ask you, give me a few of your best memories from Wayne State and our time together.
Oh man. Well, the first one that comes to mind, I don't know if Phil talks too much about eating, but man, this guy loves to eat.
Oh, geez.
I'll never forget coming home from class one day on a Friday, and I walk in, and there's Phil sitting on the couch, and he looks like he just went to like a buffet or something. I'm like, man, are you okay? And I look on the table, and there's an entire container of Oreos that are two sleeves eaten, and a whole summer sausage that's like quarter left. He just went to town. He'll crush it. That is a memory I'll never. Every time I go to the store and I see Oreos, Phil is my first thought
Oh
with
my gosh.
that. But I mean, we had some epic trips that we did for baseball down to Florida, and the trips we did, the tournaments, and the games. But I think what really what sticks out, and it's something that it's not as funny, but it's something that we had to grind that the guys at Wayne State don't have now, are those late night practices. We would go to practice 9 at night. I'm a morning person. I hate nights. Like 9 p.m. My friends know I'm in bed getting ready for my mornings. But we would practice 9 at night until 1 in the morning. And then we'd have to get up for 7:30 for 8 a.m. class or something. And we hated those. We loved baseball. We loved what we did. So we did it. We complained, but we did it. But I think that made us tougher and more appreciative of the stuff we had. So when we did get a 3 o'clock practice, we were pumped. We were
Oh yeah.
excited. But I think that made me personally, a tougher mentally, tougher individual. And that's something that I take now. That's why I go work out in the morning. I can accomplish so much more and get that stuff done, more stuff done during the day, because I'm mentally tougher because of, the stuff that like that I was taught at Wayne State.
I 100% agree, man. I think people want to be comfortable, and you don't grow if you're comfortable. You grow by facing fear and things you don't want to do over and over and over again, and doing things when you don't feel like it and don't want to do it. Public speaking. Most people don't like getting up in front of people. What do you got to do in order to become a good public speaker? You got to get up in front of people over and over and over and over again. You know, I agree about those late night practice, man. I hated them. I remember being like, this is so stupid. Why are we doing this? What kind of coaches are these? What is this? But that was our 2010 championship year, you know, like we did. Those teams were special teams, and they were special because they grinded, right?
We were bonding on those late night practices, and our 1 a.m. trip to McDonald's because it was the only thing open to get chicken nuggets, and it was that type of stuff that brings you together. And once again, we surrounded ourselves with people who had the same mentality, right? We were around people who had the dream of winning the GLEAC and to win the conference and all that stuff. We were associated with the same like-minded people, and that really, I think, helped drive us to where we got,
For sure. And we were fueled by some Bangkok chicken while we were at it.
Man, love that Bangkok chicken. It's not there anymore.
Man, little Thai food never hurt anybody.
Thai food, man. We still went twice in one day one time.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. I was still growing back then. I needed my nutrients.
No, I hear you.
Well, John, it's been fun, man. I appreciate you coming on the show. God bless you, brother. If people want to find you or learn more about Primetime, where can they find you?
Yeah, our website, primetimebaseball.co. That's one. And then we're on Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, all that as well. Primetime Baseball 2310. Take a look on there. We put a lot of content out there, not just baseball skills and drills and recruiting type stuff, but a lot of stuff to help the younger generation grow and use sport as a means of learning and developing. So definitely give us a follow.
Yeah, make sure you go follow him. Primetimebaseball.co. Go follow him on his social channels. John Skaggs, great dude. And if you're into baseball, go check out Primetime and make sure you get involved and we'll see where Primetime can take you. So
right, you never know.
Love it. Love it, John. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Yeah, thank you so much. Take care, big guy.